ॐ तवकथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं शरवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गणन्ति भूरिदा जनाः. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are on the chapter with the various devotees, and we're starting a new day. So we're on the bottom of page 655, and the date is November 9th, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was in his room, seated on the small couch and facing the east. The devotees were sitting on the floor. It was about midday when M arrived and took a seat after saluting the master. Gradually, other devotees began to gather. Vijay Krishna Goswami was there with several Brahmo devotees. The priest, Ram Chakrabarti, was present also. Mahimacharan, Narayan, and Kishori arrived a few minutes later. It was the beginning of winter. Sri Ramakrishna had felt the need of some shirts and had asked M to bring them. Besides two broadcloth shirts, M had brought another of a heavy material for which Sri Ramakrishna had not asked. So yeah, we know that Sri Ramakrishna was very, very particular. If he didn't need something, he didn't want it, and if he was told that you may need it later, he would say that it was impossible for him to store things up, to save things for later, because in his mind it meant that he wasn't fully relying on Mother. Those who have full reliance, they don't think about what's going to come the next day. If you need something at hand, that's a different thing. So this was always an issue for him. Whenever he needed things, who would he ask for? He trusted M. He wasn't very comfortable asking for anything. But there were times when he needed things. Why these simple things wouldn't be provided for him by the temple authorities? Of course, Matar Babu would have given him anything. But anyhow, so this is a little theme that's been running through the last week or so. Master to M. You had better take that one back with you. This means this heavy material, which Thakur hadn't asked for. You can use it yourself. There's nothing wrong in that. Now, for M, this will be a very odd type of thing. Anything that he's purchased or is intending to give to Sri Ramakrishna will be like something you want to offer in the temple. Yeah, that you'll feel very shy or hesitant, or it just won't feel right to use it for any other purpose, especially oneself. Suppose you buy some food that's to be offered, and somebody says, no, you eat it instead. You feel funny about that. So M certainly won't feel very good about that. But Thakur himself is saying there's nothing wrong in that. And then he says, tell me, what kind of shirt did I ask you to bring? Now he wants to make sure that it's not his mistake. Maybe he asked for that and forgot or something like that. M, sir, you told me to get you plain ones. M should have known better. Yeah. You didn't ask me to buy the heavier one. Master, then please take that one back. See, he's not angry or anything. He's not saying, why didn't you listen to me? I told you exactly what to get. No, but he's trying to explain that this is the way his mind works. Please take that one back to Vijay and the others. You see, Dwarika Babu gave me a shawl. The Marwari devotees also brought one for me. I couldn't accept. Now he's going to be interrupted. So he's starting to say this. I couldn't accept. Probably he couldn't accept the gifts because he didn't need them or didn't ask for them, or because he had some hesitation. The Marwaris were business people. Anyhow, Vijay interrupts him, so we don't know the rest of that sentence. Vijay interrupted the master saying, That is right, sir. If a man needs a thing, he must accept it, and there must be a man to give it. Who but a man will give? Why he thinks it's necessary to make that statement, I don't know. Master, the giver is the Lord himself. So, of course, Thakur sees God dwelling within all beings. So somebody gives him something, this is God himself. The mother-in-law said to her daughter-in-law, my child, I see that everybody has someone to render him a little personal service. It would be so nice if you could find someone to massage your feet. The daughter-in-law said, Mother, God himself will massage my feet. I don't need anyone else. She spoke thus because she was a sincere lover of God. Once, a fakir went to the Emperor Akbar to ask for money. The emperor was saying his prayers. He prayed, O Lord, give me money, give me wealth. The fakir started to leave the palace, but the emperor motioned to him to wait. After finishing his prayers, Akbar came to the holy man and said, Why were you going away? The fakir replied, You yourself were begging for money and wealth, so I thought that if I must beg, I would beg of God and not of a beggar. And these are all different attitudes that people will take uh, that lead to this feeling of perfect surrender and acceptance and contentment, content with whatever comes without making too much effort. These are all different ways that people can practice that. Vijay, I saw a sadhu at Gaya. He did not take the initiative in anything. One day he wanted to feed some devotees. Suddenly he found that butter, flour, fruits, and other foodstuff had arrived from no one knew where. Yeah, this of course, this is the promise that we have in the Gita, that those who the mind is completely consumed with the thought of God, God will take care of everything. There's yoga kshema v'hamyam, that God will, whatever is needed will supply, and whatever is necessary will make sure that it doesn't run out. Very simple things. And we don't have much faith in these things. Yeah, because we don't have that full reliance. That's the thing. We wouldn't even know how to test it. Yeah, we'd be like the person who he's testing to see if he can walk on the water, but the whole time he's pulling up the hem of his cloth. Yeah, so we don't know, but we see in the lives of the direct disciples how many times Swamiji did that. From some miraculous source that food would come, and then one time somebody he wanted to see what would happen if he didn't even beg his food, and then somebody shows up and he says, I'm meant to bring some food for a holy man. And Swamiji says, no, it can't be me, I don't know you or anything. He said, no, I had a dream. Rama came and said, there's a holy man who has no food, you take it to him. And so in Swamiji's life, at least, these things happen. Master, to Vijay and the others. There are three classes of sadhus: good, mediocre, and bad. The good sadhu makes no effort to get his food. The dandis, among others, belong to the mediocre and bad classes. Now, uh, in the Dashanami Sampradaya, the 10 orders of Shankaracharya, there's some who break their staff, and there's some who keep the staff. So there are different designations. Why some do it and some don't? We break our staff. We're puris. But you'll see some sadhus, dandis, they're called, that they'll have a staff. Now it's not always a very technical distinction, because Swami Atmajnananda, he used to keep a staff. Swamiji kept a staff, but it wasn't the ritualistic thing. So Swami Atmajnananda was called Dandi Babu, Dandi Baba, by the village people and everything. Uh, Anyhow, there must be some idea that they're of a lower status, but we don't make that distinction among the 10 orders of the Shankaracharya Sampradaya. So the Dandis, among others, belong to the mediocre and bad classes. To get food, the mediocre sadhu will knock at the door of a house and say, Namo Narayanaya. And yeah, we do this when the few times that we have to beg our food, that this is how we're taught. Uh, Narayanaya Harahi, the different things to do, but you have to take the name of God. And then they come and they see that a sadhu is there and give some food. So anyhow, the good sadhu makes no effort to get his food at all. So they don't even beg. This is, of course, a very rare, very high status of a sadhu. If food comes, they eat it. If it doesn't come, they don't eat. That's all. Those belong to the mediocre and bad classes. The others, to get food, the mediocre sadhu will knock at the door of a house and say, Namo Narayana. The bad sadhu starts a quarrel if he doesn't get his alms. The good sadhu behaves like a python. Yeah, this is called ajagara vritti. The python, they won't go in search of food. They'll wrap their tail around the limb of a tree or something and hang down. Yeah, there'll be a little description here. And if food comes within its range, then it'll grab it and eat it. If it doesn't, it doesn't eat. It doesn't go in search like the other snakes will. So the python doesn't move from where it is. A young sadhu who had been a brahmachari from his boyhood went out to beg. A young girl offered him alms. The sadhu saw her breasts and thought she had abscesses. He asked about them. The elderly women of the family explained that she would someday be a mother and that God had given her breasts to give milk to her children. God had provided for all this beforehand. At these words, the sadhu was struck with wonder. He said, Then I don't need to beg. God must have provided for me too. Yeah. So anyhow, we can't play with these things unless we have that absolute faith. Then it's better not to even try to test God, because we can test and we can fail. We can say, I can say tomorrow, I won't need any food unless miraculously God provides it for somebody, and then nothing will happen probably. And then what will I do? So it's not good to test these things. Those who have the real conviction and faith, they're different for them. Now, Thakur is giving the illustration of not just the highest ideal for even among different sadhus, the highest. So devotees are going to start thinking. This is the problem whenever anyone in some position of authority that people respect, they say something that immediately people want to try it out. Yeah. So it says some of the devotees thought, this means M. Otherwise, he doesn't know what anybody else is thinking. He knows what he's thinking. So some of the devotees thought in that case, they should not take any initiative either. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, he's just giving an illustration of the very highest type. He's not saying that everybody should. Now, we know that Sri Ramakrishna had this knack that if a thought passed through somebody's mind, that he would be aware of it. So he'll address that. So M is saying, he doesn't want to say, I thought. He just says, some of the devotees thought in that case they should not take any initiative either. Master, as if he had said it out loud, and he's answering, but those who think that an effort is needed must make the effort. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say sometimes that, why only this? We see that we're making an effort to do everything else. Why would this one thing we rely on God? We're not relying on God or anything else. Why we should be consistent at least. Vijay, There's a nice story about that in the Bhaktamala. There's Bhaktamala. This text comes up at different times. That one of the stories is being read out here later about the Shyam Sundar, who shows up on a horse and defeats all of the whole army and everything. And so this was a book that was known at that time. Little individual stories, apparently, of different bhaktas. Master, tell it to us, Vijay. Please tell us yourself. Now, Vijay, he's the one who brought it up. Thakur is asking him to tell it. He's not doing it. He's asking Sri Ramakrishna, Master, no, you tell it. I don't remember it very well. There's so many stories, we don't know which one it was referring to. One should hear these things at the beginning. That is why I listened to them years ago. But now I am no longer in that mood. The story before this, it's interesting because there's this very miraculous thing that takes place. Single-handedly, he defeats the whole army and everything. That he comes on horseback, and so Sri Ramakrishna asks M, "Do you believe these things?" And now M's on the spot. What's he going to say? So he doesn't want to say, "No, I don't believe these things." He was a very, Western educated, critical thinking type of person. So he says, well, I think everything is possible with the God. He gives some very wishy-washy type of answer. So Sri Ramakrishna, very nicely, he simply says, yeah, these things are a little fanatical, these books. He doesn't say, I don't believe it, anything like that. He dismisses it a little bit, that we don't have to take everything so literally. So he says that one should hear these things at the beginning. That is why I listened to them years ago, but now I am no longer in that mood. Hanuman said, I don't know the position of the stars or the phase of the moon. I only think of Rama. So this is an example. The devotee, like Hanuman, he doesn't have to worry about anything. The mind is completely filled with the thought of Rama, thought of God, and then he'll be taken care of. This, we don't know how this works exactly, but we see it. These are different class of devotee. The chadak bird craves only rainwater. Even when it is dying of thirst, it turns its beak upward and wants only water from the sky. The Ganges, the Jamuna, and the 7 oceans are filled to the brim, but still it will not touch the water of the earth. So there are people like that mind is just consumed with the thought of God. They don't care for anything else. They won't even look after themselves. They'll just, it's not that they're testing God or just relying on God. Mind, there's no thought other than God. This ananya chinta, this idea that one is thinking of God exclusively. No other thought comes. We can't. It's a very rare thing for people to find people like that. Rama and Lakshmana visited Pampa Lake. Lakshmana saw a crow, very eager for water. Again and again it went to the edge of the water, but would not drink. Lakshmana asked Rama about it. Rama said, Brother, this crow is a great devotee of God. Day and night it repeats the name of Rama. Its throat is parched with thirst, but still it won't drink for fear of missing a repetition of Rama's name. So this is that class he's talking about. On a full moon night, I said to Haladhari, Brother, is it the night of the new moon? All laugh. The Haladhari, see, Sri Ramakrishna had three H's. Hridaya, Hazra, and Haladhari. And they're all somehow related or from the same village. He's related somehow. I don't know. Does anybody know? The brother of an aunt or something like that. Maybe through marriage, really. There was a whole little group of them. And they all at different times would make fun of Sri Ramakrishna or at the very least fail to recognize who he was and laugh at him and wonder why everybody makes such a big fuss over him. So Haladhari was like that also. Smiling. Yes, it is true. Once I was told that a characteristic of a man of perfect knowledge is that he cannot distinguish between the full moon and the new moon. The mind is someplace else. Yeah, I'm not aware of these things. But how could one convince Haladhari of that? He said, this is certainly the dark Kali Yuga. He cannot distinguish the full moon from the new moon, and people respect him. Mahimacharan entered the room. Now you remember he was there last week, which was this is November 9th, and the last one was probably a week before. I don't know. 26th. Yeah, so it's just a few days later. Yeah, and we know about him. He has a very high opinion of his intelligence, and he considers himself to be a great jnani. But Thakur likes him. Thakur liked all different types of people, and so they had good, lively conversation and everything. Master, respectfully, and he was older. I don't know how old, more elderly. Master, respectfully, come in, sir. Please take a seat. To Vijay and the other devotees, in the ecstatic state of mind, I cannot remember a date. He couldn't remember anything, whether his clothes are on or not, or fall onto the floor. In that ecstatic state of mind, he's not aware of physical body or who's in the room or anything. The other day, there was a religious festival at Manipal's garden. I forgot the date. I can no longer remember the last day of the month when it is very auspicious to repeat the name of God. There was an incident, I don't know if it was this one, where somebody was not invited because they were given the wrong date, and then they blamed Rakal, and there was a whole big issue over all of that. So everyone, some of his feelings were hurt. I think it was Ram. Huh? Yeah, he was told the wrong date and for some festival at somebody's house, and yeah. Yeah, so Thakur also, he used to say that he never left anything behind. He would scold them. They'd have a little picnic in the Panchavati, and they would leave an umbrella behind, a knife, something like that. And he would say, half the time, I don't know if my cloth is on or it's fallen off or anything, but I never leave anything behind. I never forget it. He was very, very particular about those things. Sri Ramakrishna remained thoughtful a few minutes. Master, but I remember if a man makes an engagement to visit me. Yeah, this is probably some specific reference to Vidyasagar, who said, yes, sir, I'll come and visit you, and he never came. And Thakur always remembered that. A man attains this state when his mind is 100% absorbed in God. When Hanuman returned from Ceylon, Rama said to him, you have seen Sita. Tell me, how did you find her? Hanuman said, oh, Rama, I saw that only the body of Sita lay there. It held neither her mind nor her soul. She has indeed consecrated her mind and soul to your lotus feet. Therefore, I saw only her body in Ceylon. Further, I saw the king of death prowling about. But what could he do? It was only a body. It had neither mind nor soul. If you meditate on an ideal, you will acquire its nature. Yeah, we very often ask that or wonder when we practice meditation, what are the fruits of meditation? What is happening? What is happening internally if we're talking about some type of transformation that we expect to take place? Partly it depends on the type of meditation that we do, but meditation on the chosen deity, the Ishta Devata, where we focus on the personality and the qualities, then that should transfer to a certain extent to us. Say we meditate on Holy Mother, and the whole time we're thinking of Holy Mother, we're thinking of how she loved everybody, how she looked upon everyone as her own child, that as a result of deep thinking about that, we should develop, but to a certain extent, that same capacity to love people equally, to love people equally. So this is one of the things, the effects of meditation, and this is why also when we meditate, it shouldn't simply be the name and the form. It has to be the swarupa, and it has to be this uh, human aspect also. It has to be the whole package. Even if we think of a person, we want the whole package. We love a person because of the personality, and also because of the divinity. And without the divinity, there's no personality. So the same thing. If the personality is uppermost in the mind, if we're thinking about the Swamiji's love for humanity, something like that, it should develop in us. We should find that gradually we're also developing this feeling of oneness with all others. So this is one of the most important ideas. If you meditate on an ideal, you will acquire its nature. If you think of God day and night, you will acquire the nature of God. And if we think of worldly things day and night and worldly people, the mind gets affected. There's the nature of the mind. The mind easily takes the color of the dye that we dip it in. If it's worldly things, it'll take the worldly color. That's why we have to be very careful of what type of company we keep and things that we fill the mind with. A salt doll went into the ocean to measure its depth. It became one with the ocean. What is the goal of books or scriptures? The attainment of God. Yeah, so we can say, why do we meditate? I want to realize God. I want to go into samadhi. But these are all, if we want to say secondary, maybe, for some people, they may be primary, inner transformation and development of the great love of God. This idea of the salt doll, this is an example that Sri Ramakrishna gives over and over again. It's a very important, and he speaks about it in different contexts also. That partly this reaching the bottom of the ocean can be understood as the attainment of nirvikalpa samadhi, from which an ordinary person won't be able to return. That at that point, mind and whatever the individual has becomes one with Brahman itself. There's no coming back from that. This is one way he explained it. Second is that those who can come back from that experience at the time that they're there, there's no individual to be able to observe and take notes. What is the bottom of the ocean like? So when they go back, also they won't be able to describe it. Thakur says over and over again, it can't be expressed in words what that experience is. So sometimes he'll use this to explain the difference between those who have the special power. The Ishvarakotis, they have a special power. One of the part of that power is the ability to reach that highest state near Vikalpa Samadhi and come back down again. Now he'll also say that there are other great souls, not this special class, that can attain to this state but can't maintain it. That either some good desire will bring it down or some old karma will bring it down. If they stay too long in that state, then they won't be able to return. So the question of the prarabdha karma for them. But here he's using it in a different context. That this salt doll, it means one who meditates on Brahman as all pervading absolute reality, can attain that state of the oneness with the Brahman. What is the goal of books or scriptures? The attainment of God. A man opened a book belonging to a sadhu. He saw the word Rama written on every page. There was nothing else. Yeah, this is a spiritual practice. We talk about japa. It's a spiritual practice to repeat the name of, in this case, Rama. But there's some people who write it over and over and over and over again. They'll write it. We had one monk, this Swami Krishnananda in Hollywood, American monk, that he used to write over and over and over again. We think Ramakrishna. I think they found books, pages, and is Rolo here? No, I think they found many. Roloji, did they find those books with the? I think they found in the archives that he would just write the name of Ramakrishna over and over. Anyhow, it's a type of spiritual practice. If a man loves God, even the slightest thing kindles spiritual feeling in him. This is one of the reasons why this repetition of the name of God, because not only does it enkindle it, there's a certain real identification. The name of the person and the person, the name of the thing and the thing itself. Then repeating the name of Rama, but once he gets the fruit of 10 million sandhyas. So this is the tremendous faith that the devotee has in the name of God. But it has to be done with that faith and with that type of devotion. So this is the first part. If a man loves God, so if someone really has that tremendous love and devotion, then even the slightest thing kindles spiritual feeling in him. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is talking about himself, of course, because this uddipana, this enkindling, this was something that was very, very prominent in his life, and the slightest thing would trigger this idea of triggering something, or a very, very dry kindling. If it gets near the fire, it'll blaze up. At the sight of a cloud, the peacock's emotion is awakened. He dances, spreading his tail. Radha had the same experience. Just the sight of a cloud recalled Krishna to her mind. Yeah, the same complexion as Krishna, or if she saw a peacock, the peacock feather in his head, all sorts of things. These are the three, Chaitanya Deva, the three that are always referred to, Radha, Chaitanya Deva, and Sri Ramakrishna. These are the three examples that we have of the tremendous power of uddipana, of this catching it, this enkindling, this some slightest thing, he says, kindles a spiritual feeling. Chaitanya Deva was passing a village. He heard the drums were made from the earth of that place. At once he was overwhelmed with ecstasy, because drums are used in kirtan. Yeah. But who can have this spiritual awakening? Only he who has renounced his attachment to worldly things. So what happens, this is again, it looks like a catch-22, that what comes first here? Do we have to renounce all attachment to have this type of experience, or can we only get rid of attachment through having that type of experience? So do we put all our effort into detachment, or all of our effort into love of God? Which one is superior? For Sri Ramakrishna, it's the love of God, anuraga. That he says that's the easy way to get rid of our attachment. But we have to do both. We have to do both side by side. Each will help the other. It's not a real catch-22. It's just that we won't be perfect in one until we improve in the other, and then that helps the other. It just goes back and forth. So this renunciation of attachment to worldly things, this is necessary for spiritual awakening. Then, if the sap of attachment is totally dried up in a person, the slightest suggestion kindles his spiritual emotion. So attachment also means worldly desires, and attachment to the point where we're constantly thinking about worldly things, we're constantly longing for enjoyment and pleasure and everything. That otherwise, attachment that we have to our loved ones. Say, mother has attachment to a child. That if this isn't something that's consuming the mind, but there's love for the child, and if it's not something that's so exclusive that doesn't care for anybody else, then an obstacle. Otherwise, if we can see God in the object, if the love the child sees God dwelling in the child, then it can be helpful even. But there's another type of worldly attachment that will really snuff out any type of longing for some higher spiritual experience. So the sap of attachment has to be totally dried up. This means really worldly attachment. Though you strike a wet match 1,000 times, it will not produce a spark. But if it is dried, the slightest rubbing will set it aflame. So we're really trying to reach that state where the mind is soaked in the world. We want it to be dry. We want it to be a little bit fired with this type of renunciation. This renunciation, detachment and renunciation, vairagya, this is, for me, my feeling is it's too often looked upon from the negative point of view, that we're trying to fight attachment to the world. This vairagya has a very positive type of meaning, that this longing for something higher automatically means that we feel some painful experience when we're denied that, when we're stuck with worldly company and worldly things and everything. So it's a very strong desire to escape somehow. People say escapism is a bad thing. But here it's a good thing. I like this example of when the head is pressed down, that we have two things at the same time. He says, how did you feel? I felt that I was going to die. I was going to die for being immersed in the water. I couldn't get out. And I was longing for a breath of air. So we feel we're drowning in the world, but we know there's something else. We have that longing to escape and get that fresh air. And so both of these things go together. But there's this vairagya can really be an inspiring type of feeling, and can be the most helpful thing in spiritual life. It shouldn't be thought of in very negative terms. That it sounds so bad that you have to give up this, you have to give up that. No, it means that we can't bear having to deal with those things anymore because we're longing for something else. It just a stage comes when it really, Thakur says, he uses such strong language. One's own relatives are like venomous cobras. The world is like a blazing forest fire. You're trying to run away and get out. But it's a very positive type of feeling because we know that there's something. If it's simply we can't bear this world, then it's a type of depression. Then it's a type of just unwillingness to fulfill our obligations and duties in the world, really escapism. But for spiritual aspirants who know that this is just holding them down, that there's something there that is within their grasp, they're longing for it, then it's a very positive, helpful thing. Pain and pleasure are inevitable in a body. Now, this is another question that always comes up. Why do we suffer? Why do we suffer? We have three answers at least. There are many, many different ways of looking at this. It's my karma, number one. Number two, somehow divine will. Somehow mother knows this is best for me. Two different attitudes. Third attitude is, I have a body. Suffering is inevitable. Suffering is inevitable. Thakur talks about that. Holy Mother talks about that. If you assume a human body, it's inevitable that something will happen. Now, why some people get more suffering than others, why people who look like complete scoundrels may have a good, healthy life, and with that, we can attribute to karma if we want. but it's very hard to say. But if we have a human body, sooner or later something's going to go wrong. There'll be some pain and suffering. So this is what he's saying: inevitable. Pain and pleasure are inevitable. Yeah, and there'll be pleasure also. This is just we live in this world, what they call dvandvas. There'll always be good and bad, hot and cold. There'll be these different pairs of opposites, pleasure and pain, suffering and enjoyment. All it'll be one after another. They just go back and forth. This is life in the world. He who has realized God dedicates his mind and life, his body and soul to God. When Ram and Lakshmana went to take their bath in Pampa Lake, they thrust their bows into the ground. Coming out of the water, Lakshmana took out his bow and found its tip stained with blood. Rama said to him, "Look, brother, look, perhaps we've hurt some creature." Lakshmana dug in the earth and found a big bullfrog. It was dying. Rama said to the frog in a sorrowful voice, "Why didn't you croak? We should have tried to save you. You croaked lustily enough when you were in the jaws of a snake." The frog said, "O Lord, when I am attacked by a snake, I croak, saying, 'O Rama, save me. O Rama, save me.' This time I found that it was Rama who was killing me, so I kept still." So we have two good frog stories. What was the other one? Huh? Oh, no, the other was a crow story. We have two Lake Pampa stories, though. There was the crow. Yeah. Sri Ramakrishna remained silent a few moments, watching the devotees. He had heard that Mahimacharana did not believe in following a guru. Now, this was very common at that period of time, partly because the Brahmos did not like this idea of guru, and partly because the Westerners, they were Western educated people, and so anyhow, for some reason, that he belonged to that class. He began the conversation again. That means Sri Ramakrishna. "Master, one should have faith in the words of his guru. He doesn't have to look into the guru's character." Now, he's saying this because he's going to quote the verse. Otherwise, yeah, we'll discuss this. "Though my guru visits the grog shop, still he is the embodiment of eternal bliss." This is part of this Chaitanya tradition. "Jodopi amar guru, shura badi jai, totopi amar guru, nityananda rai." Nice little verse. Now, it goes against everything that we read and hear, that we have to test the guru. The guru has to be spotless character, stainless. So why does he say this? This is all the purity of the mind and heart of the disciple. For the disciple not to look for fault or anything. Now, the second thing may be, this is just my own interpretation. In this tradition, the Vaishnava tradition, the gurus are hereditary. They belong to a family. They're householders. The Goswami tradition. So they may not be. It's not like looking for a holy person who you've tested thoroughly and everything. Your family belongs to the tradition that everyone in your family will take initiation from the guru's family, the father and then the son after him and everything. So it may be that you've already taken initiation for that person. Then you'll progress spiritually if you look upon this person with the highest respect. If you start looking for fault in that person, then you will suffer. You won't gain anything from it. We see this sometimes. We see that there are people with tremendous faith in some of these gurus who are not so ethical or moral. They may do really some nasty things, and yet the disciples are so pure in their faith and devotion. It may not be well founded, but still that they benefit from it. The guru may suffer because of it, but they'll benefit from it. So it can be taken in that sense also. But in general, we find that, and Thakur says, in other places, he says the opposite. Test the Guru by day and by night. Don't accept anything they say without testing it, and to make sure that they're stainless, character is stainless. This is one of the prerequisites. So otherwise, it sounds a little unusual that he's quoting this, but it has that other point to it also. And he's saying this for the sake of Mahimacharan, who doesn't believe in following a guru. So Thakur is saying, yeah, you have to respect these people, even if they're not 100% saintly. They may have some worldly qualities and everything. They may be, because this is a householder tradition, and they have that position because they were born in that family, not that they necessarily earned it by their saintliness or anything. A man who used to give recitals of the Chandi and the Bhagavata once said, "A broomstick is itself unclean, but it cleans dirty places." So, in these rare cases where Guru may not have that sterling quality, still because of devotion to them, that because of that devotion, they may be able to attain to that stainless nature. Mahimacharan studied the Vedanta. That means he thought of himself as a non-dualist, an impersonal aspect of God, didn't care for devotional things very much. His aim was to attain Brahmajnana. He followed the path of knowledge and was always reasoning. Master to Mahima. The aim of the Jnani is to know the nature of his own self. This is knowledge, this is liberation. The true nature of the self is that it is the Supreme Brahman. I and the Supreme Brahman are one, but this knowledge is hidden on account of Maya. So a very beautiful, just in a few sentences, very beautiful, a perfect explanation of this Upanishadic ideal. I said to Harish, this is the whole thing. The gold is hidden under a few basketfuls of earth, and you must remove the earth. So we have this very common theme in the Upanishads that Brahman is somehow hidden in the cave. Either it's in the cave because cave is so dark that an item can be there and we won't see it. Yeah. Or it needs to be dug up. It means to be pulled out somehow. Or this covering of Maya has to be removed. So this nihita is deposited, it's hidden, it's buried somehow, yaguhayam, in the cave. We have this very common phrase in the Upanishads. The bhaktas retain I consciousness, the jnanis do not. Now, this is another example of how practical Sri Ramakrishna is. That most people will say, if this ego is unreal, this ego is part of Maya, that if there's no substance to it, it's the stick on the surface of the water, it looks like it's doing something that's nothing, then we have to get rid of it. It can't be of any use to us. This you can never attain to knowledge with anything that's not knowledge itself. Only knowledge can remove the ignorance. If this is not part of knowledge, then it's useless. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, he says that we're talking now about this idea that we have of this ego sense, and this is something that is 100% real. 100% real. Each and every one of us, we think of ourselves as an I. We identify ourselves with his body and with his personality and our culture and everything else. So this is fact. The truth may be that this is false identification. The truth may be that we analyze this ego and it disappears. Thakur admits that. He says this is all true. Few people can do it and maintain that attitude because the next moment this feeling of I comes back. So he's practical. He sees this difference between what is true and what is factual. The factual belongs to Maya. That this is just a fact of this is part of the reality of being a human being, that we have a sense of I. And it's very hard to get rid of this. He said better to try to change it, ripen it, have a relationship. He gives that example. So he's saying the bhaktas retain I consciousness, The jnanis do not. Now, for the most part, the jnanis will deny the reality of the I, of this lower self, but they'll also have some sense of I. Thakur says this is the ripe ego for the jnani. They'll identify with one with Brahman, something like that. But uh, they don't try to keep this I. They try to keep reminding themselves, I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, I'm not the senses. I'm one with, if we say I'm one with the Brahman, that's a different type of ego. That won't count as this ordinary type. So from that point, they don't retain that ordinary I consciousness. Nangta, this is Totapuri, used to teach how to establish oneself in the true self, saying, merge the mind in the buddhi and the buddhi in the atman. Then you will be established in your true self. Now, the last couple of weeks, I've been talking on the Sunday lectures, the two different ways of looking at this mind. That the mind can be looked upon as part of nature, as an instrument, as composed of parts, subtle, but material type of instrument thing that reflects consciousness. The other way of looking at it is that what we call mind is nothing but this ocean of consciousness. And on the surface of it, it's broken out into little waves, which are thoughts and feelings and everything. That if we can purify that, make this mind perfectly calm and still, then this mind is one with that pure consciousness. They're two contradictory ideas for the philosopher, but they're both helpful ideas and helpful ways of looking at it. Or Swamiji, he says that we never come into contact with mind. All we know is the external, the surface of the mind, which is thoughts and feelings and emotions and everything. Underlying that is some unknown thing. Just as underlying this as phenomenal things, we have something we call matter. We never come into contact. We only see the surface, the outer side of things. He says one is X, one is Y, both are Brahman. So what we call mind is also the supreme Brahman. The external. We go a little deeper, we dive deep, we get to this lower subconscious level of the mind, go deeper, cosmic mind, go deeper, this pure self. Just two different models. We don't have to say one is right, one is wrong. The first one, this instrument thing, is the Sankhya model. The other is more the Vedantic model, this Totapuri is talking about. Otherwise, how do we say that he says merge the mind and the buddhi, but also he says the pure mind. Thakur says pure mind is one with the pure buddhi is one with the pure self. If the mind is an instrument, no matter how pure it is, it can reflect consciousness, but it won't be one with consciousness. That's a different model. We don't have to worry about the metaphysics of these things. Then we get into trouble. We worry about which one is right? Is it an instrument, or is it just the consciousness itself, broken out into waves, particularized? Then it's self-defeating. It's not helpful to get to be too particular about how literally we take these things. They're points of view. They're models that we use, and both are helpful. Thakur uses both of them. The reflection model and these other Swamijis, they'll go back and forth because they're being practical. They're telling us how we can fix the mind, how we can have an attitude and understanding of mind and self and everything, so that when we sit for meditation, that we can go deep in meditation. Okay, so now he just finished saying that this I consciousness, that the jnanis won't have it or anything. Then he says, but the I persists. This feeling of identification. Now, it may not be, I know that I'm not, that I'm something more than this body. I may know myself to be the witness of the mind and everything, but at the same time, I experience things through these senses, through this mind. It is impossible to live without feeling some connection, if not full identification, at least connection with this body and mind. Impossible. Unless we're sleeping or in samadhi. Impossible. There's no way that I can confuse myself with any of you. I don't hear what you're thinking. I don't see through your eyes. The Thakur Mother may have said you eat through so many mouths. That's a different thing. He can experience that maybe, but yeah, for us. So, but the I persists. It cannot be got rid of. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to understand what is the nature of this I. The nature of this I is what we identify with. It's not a real structure. It's not something that can't be changed or anything. We're trying to ripen it and purify it. Imagine a limitless expanse of water above and below. Before, everywhere there is water. In that water is placed a jar filled with water. So this jar is this body and mind. There is water inside the jar and water outside, but the jar is still there. The I is the jar. So this is our sense of individuality. Even after attaining knowledge, the jnani keeps his body as before. Okay, now, for those who think that the jnani will have to have this nirvikalpa samadhi and give up the body in 21 days, Thakur will say no. There are ways to attain this highest type of knowledge through this jnana yoga, where the body will not exhaust itself in 21 days, but will last as long as the karma. Parad of the karma is there. So even after attaining knowledge, the jnani keeps his body as before, but the fire of knowledge burns away his lust and other passions. So again, we have this cause and effect. We have to get rid of this lust and greed and all of that to a certain extent. So the fire gets bigger and bigger, then the fire will finish the job. So the fire of knowledge burns away his lust and other passions. Many days ago, during an electric storm, a thunderbolt struck the Kali temple. We saw that no injury had been done to the doors. Only the points of the screws were broken. A wonderful illustration. So the body will still exist. Nothing happens to it, but the screws and everything, that'll be all of the knots of the heart and the desires and everything, they'll get burned up. So what a nice example. We saw that no injury had been done to the doors. Only the points of the screws were broken. The doors are the body, and the passions, lust and so forth, are the screws. Yeah, so they'll be zapped. Yeah, they'll be gone. A jnani loves to talk only about God. See, this is all for the sake of Mahimachana. No, he's so much emphasis on jnana yoga. He feels pained if one talks about worldly things, but a worldly man belongs to a different class. He always has the turban of ignorance on his head. He always comes back to worldly topics. The Vedas speak of the 7 planes of mind. When the jnani's mind ascends to the 5th plane, he cannot listen to anything or talk of anything but God. At that stage, only words of wisdom come from his lips. So Thakur used to say, reaching the heart center also. I don't know this real distinction between the 7 planes of the mind and the different chakras of the kundalini. They correspond somehow. Thakur would mention both somehow. The Vedas speak of Satchidananda Brahman. Brahman is neither one nor two. Yeah, this is also interesting. It is between 1 and 2. It cannot be described either as existence or as non-existence. It is between existence and non-existence. He talks like this also at the end when they have the conversation about the Buddhist tradition. Yeah, that for the Buddhists, they may say this shunyata, and for the Vedantists, they'll talk about the Purnata, and Sad and Asad. This Brahman, see the thing, if we say that Brahman exists, then the mind immediately thinks of a thing. It's not a thing. If we say Asad, the mind immediately thinks of non-existence. But it really means that something that can't be described, something that is perfectly empty. So this shunya, perfectly empty, if it leads to the conclusion that it doesn't exist, then that's the difficulty. If we say that it's perfectly full, it leads to the conclusion that it's somehow material, or composed of something, then there's a problem. So sometimes he says it's beyond both, and sometimes he says in between. A very interesting way of putting it. Okay, there's a good place to stop. Now he'll start talking about how the devotee looks upon things. So we're going to stop here. This is the middle of page 659. Yeah. In between.
Oscillating between the fullness.
No, I think in between. I think it simply means that if we push in the direction of one, then it's okay. That it falls in between. It's equally close to. It's equally describable as perfectly full and perfectly empty. It's neither one is a perfect description of it, but it's not like closer to one or the other. It's in between them. I take it that way. Otherwise, I don't know exactly. Why sometimes it'll be on both. But I like this idea that it's the kind of a balance, a tension between these two opposite ways of looking at things. That it's equally full and equally empty, the Brahman. Equally full and equally empty from the point of view of is there any content to consciousness? All content to consciousness belongs to the mind. It itself is perfectly empty. But it's not a non-existent thing. The great many of the Buddhist schools, they'll go from empty to non-existent, and they won't talk about God or the self or anything like that. So he wants, in order to avoid that, we can say this is why Buddha didn't answer these questions, because he knew that it'll be a mistake on the one hand if he says exists, on the other hand if he says doesn't exist. So we kept silent. Okay, so we'll stop here. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhatudurigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamedhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we will meet again next Friday.